My story of awakening, purpose, and love. My name is Jack M., born in June 1981 in Mexico. There is nothing beautiful about my story. Nothing worth singing about or writing as a fairy tale. I am marked by the darkness of life, by the traces left by broken paths, unfulfilled desires, and wrong decisions. My life didn't start in the light, nor was it built on a foundation of joy. From a young age, I approached spirituality through a sect disguised as a brotherhood. But I soon realized that behind every promise of salvation, there was only human selfishness and lies. I walked away without saying much, without making noise. Instead of finding lasting peace, I only found disillusionment, the nothingness that always accompanies me. The idea was forged that everything was relative. If the world was broken, why keep looking for answers? I went to Europe after finishing university, searching for something I didn't even know what it was. In Prague, I was free. There's something in the air there, desperation and ecstasy. The city itself is steeped in darkness. Alcohol and women were the order of the day. The notion of being a 23-year-old Latino in the middle of Eastern Europe. I loved my brown skin, so despised in my country. I speak Czech, yes, out of love for the language, because everything around me was an unsolvable enigma. For 7 years, I lived there, without direction, without purpose, simply drifting from one desire to another, from one encounter to another, to the next bar, always searching for something I never found. I lived for myself, I was free, in a bubble no one else could understand. My life was empty, however, I must say that in my unconsciousness, I was happy, very happy. When I returned to Mexico, I thought I could find a tangible purpose. After some time preparing in a failed business, I gave up on the dream of being an entrepreneur and resigned myself to being a simple employee. However, my skills allowed me to secure a position among the top 1% of the highest paid in the country. I helped many, yes, but it's never enough, people always want more. What starts as kindness eventually turns into obligation. And then you become the bad guy when you no longer want to give more. My material life was built on fragile ground, an illusion. Nothing made me feel complete. Money didn't fill the void, and loneliness only worsened over time. And it was then, in the midst of it all, that I met her. Mako, a name that, despite everything that happened, still resonates as a constant echo in my mind. She didn't come to save me, nor did I come to save her. We found each other, like two lost souls searching for something we didn't even know we needed. From the very first moment, her presence pulled me in, consumed me. I fell in love with her, deeply, with an intensity I didn't know existed. Her beauty, her madness, her sensuality, her rebellion, her beautiful eyes, and at the same time, her unconsciousness, her darkness, her lack, her insecurity, and her vulnerability. I decided to help her and help myself through it. She was hope itself, I had never seen anyone like her before or since. I wanted to pull her out of what she was doing, to give her a new life. And she agreed. I thought we had found the path together. I even carry the mark of her name on my hands, I don't need tattoos, I bear the mark of the chosen ones. But soon I understood that love is not enough. Our relationship went to hell at the terminal. It rotted under the weight of the same shadows we both carried. What initially seemed like a refuge turned into a battlefield. I know exactly the moment I broke her heart. It stayed inside a trash can with a lid too heavy to lift and retrieve it. After that, nothing was the same. We destroyed each other. We hurt each other in ways that I still struggle to accept. We betrayed each other, pushed each other beyond the limit, and yet, I could never let her go. My love for her was still there. Even though everything we shared was horrible. Like two cats trapped in a bag trying to escape, we hurt each other too much. While my relationship with Maria was falling apart, my work life also collapsed. Betrayal was a constant, a shadow that never left me in peace. My colleague, someone who knew my efforts and talent, used my software to obtain a position that was rightfully mine, a position I had earned with sacrifice, sleepless nights, and the sweat of my brow. I worked on a project that a group of engineers more qualified than me couldn't complete. I brought it to fruition alone, without support, without help, and in just a matter of days. I did in days what they couldn't do in months. And my reward was being fired. I was fired. The official excuse was that I didn't follow protocol, that I bypassed the rules. But the truth was much more bitter, they hated me for being better than them. They hated me because I proved I didn't need them, that I could do it on my own. All my effort, all my dedication, vanished as if it had meant nothing. Watching how my work became something others took credit for, while I was left empty-handed, was a blow I still can't digest. Everything I had built crumbled before my eyes, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. The fall was imminent. I lost my job, my relationships, my stability. During that time, alcohol became my only companion. It was an escape, a release, a relief. But alcohol only made everything worse, expanding the emptiness I felt even further. There was no solace in the warm liquor, no solace in people, only the hollow echo of my own despair, my own emptiness, and my solitude. I must say that my company had made me travel more than 1,500 kilometers to another city. I was far from home when this happened, and it happened after months of rejection from my coworkers. And during this time, Mac was especially cruel. She told me she felt disgusted by me, that she had never loved me, and that if it weren't for money, she would never have been with me. That every time we were together, she hated it. She hurt me more than anyone else ever has. And she did it mockingly, telling me about how she had relations with her beloved L, without protection, and at the same time offering me her services, for money, of course. I started calling her a fucking whore, something I deeply regret. Because, as Sor Juana says, who sins more? The one who sins for pay, or the one who pays for sinning? Guadalajara was the darkest time of my life. After everything I went through, my soul was shattered. The emptiness I felt was more than emotional, it was a deep void that I couldn't fill with anything. Each day felt like a long agony, and although I found solace in alcohol, empty conversations, or any fleeting distraction, the void remained the same. Life seemed to be crumbling, and I couldn't do anything to stop it. I felt like my life was completely out of control, as if the universe had dragged me into the abyss without giving me a chance to react. Still in Guadalajara, things began to unravel even faster. I had not only lost my way, but I also started to feel as if something was stalking me. The nights were long and heavy, and every time I found myself alone, there was something in the air I couldn't explain. I began to see shadows, figures moving in the corners against the light, even when I knew there was no one else in the room. At first, I thought it was my imagination, that maybe I was too tired or overwhelmed by stress. But over time, those shadows became more persistent. They stayed there, watching. I could feel their presence even when I didn't see them directly. I was in a dark place, not just in my mind, but also in my surroundings. It was then that, searching for answers, I started listening to tarot and channeling videos. I'm not someone who used to believe in those things, but at that moment, I was so lost that any chance to understand what was happening was enough to try. At first, the tarot readings I found were pretty generic. But one night, everything changed. A woman spoke for an hour about my life. She was horrifyingly accurate, to the point of describing my situation in a detail I couldn't ignore. First, she spoke about the past. She said things only I knew, things that had happened recently. And she did so with such accuracy that it left me frozen. Then she started talking about the present, the job, the betrayal, the inner struggles, Mac. She was describing my life, every word fit. But what truly struck me was when she spoke about the future. She talked about divine protection, angels surrounding me, the chosen ones, and a purpose I still didn't understand. She told me I wasn't alone, that everything I was facing was part of something bigger. I must say I've never contacted this woman, but I continue to watch her readings, and she keeps describing, day by day, what is happening in my life. Although I found some solace in those words, I also felt fear. The shadows were still there, and with each channeling I listened to, it seemed like the weight of my situation only became more real. I began to feel trapped between two worlds, one filled with pain and darkness, and another even darker but distant. It was like walking a tightrope over an abyss, not knowing what was on either side. Friends kept leaving, the betrayals continued, and Mac's cruelty as well. One night, I was going to hang myself with a cable, but something happened, and I decided to pray to God for help, something I hadn't done in years. God answered. In my prayer, the only thing I asked for was that if Mac wasn't meant to be for me, to please take the pain away. Honestly, nothing else mattered to me, only her. I was too tired, too hurt, I couldn't take it anymore. I didn't stop feeling pain, but it eased just enough for me to regain some composure and return to my home state, which I did. The corrupt company I worked for, of course, didn't pay fair compensation, so I came back with very little money and many debts. I spent a few days at home until something horrible happened. One morning, I went out to walk my dog, something I did regularly. The air felt heavy, but I didn't think much of it. I walked through the streets, not imagining that this day would change everything. Suddenly, a group of police officers intercepted me. At first, I thought it was a routine check, but soon everything turned strange. They accused me of carrying drugs and weapons, things I had never had. I didn't understand anything. They had decided I was guilty. They handcuffed me right there, in front of my dog, and took me away without giving me the chance to call anyone. On the way, While I was in the patrol car, they explained everything. One of the officers, with a cynical smile, told me this had nothing to do with me. It was a settling of scores. Apparently, the wife of a mafia neighbor had feelings for me, and the man had decided to involve me in this nightmare. The most ironic part was that I didn't even know who they were. I didn't know him or her. I spent 2 days in prison. The place was a filthy hole. The walls were damp, the stench unbearable. However, I was able to make friends, and God protected me. While I was there, the corrupt police took the opportunity to break into my house. They said they were looking for evidence, but all they did was steal. When I returned, my computers, my phones, my tablets, my backpacks, everything of value, was gone. It was as if they had decided to destroy not only my freedom but everything I had built. But they also took my fears. There, in that situation, I received the first direct sign from God. No subtleties, no room for doubt, no nonsense. Days earlier, the tarot reader had said I would find a feather in an unlikely place, and at that moment, I would know that God was with me. In the cell, while I was waiting for the resolution, dirty and caked in mud on the sole of my shoe, I found a white bird feather. At that moment, I had a revelation: God was with me, and nothing would happen to me, and that's exactly what happened. In the end, I managed to prove my innocence. I was released, without a record, but that experience left a mark on me. I found what I was looking for. Knowing that someone could invent such a big lie, that they could destroy your life in an instant, left me with a wound that has not yet healed. And yet, here I am. I came out of that hole, though I'm not the same. Now, I'm stronger, and I have no fear. Through all of this, prayer began to take shape. There were several versions of it, not as a gentle solution, but as a bitter salvation, born out of desperation, out of the need to find something greater than the void, the nothingness. Despite the internal demons, prayer allowed me to start rebuilding myself, slowly. The nothingness turned into a kind of strength, a strength that was no longer destructive but transformative. This was just the beginning of a series of events that pushed me to the limit of what I could bear.